Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some decor DIYs that you can use not only for Christmas, but you can keep up all winter long. So let's go ahead and get started on our first project. I am using one of the coin banks from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove the backing from that. And I'm going to scrape the lettering off from the inside using a scraper blade. Just be really, really careful, not to cut yourself or to cut the glass. And then I'm going to use some acetone and a cotton ball just to remove the excess from the lettering that was on the inside, and then use a clean paper towel to dry everything off. For the backing, I'm going to cover it using one of Dollar Tree's shirt boxes, and I'm just going to trace that out and cut it down to size so that it will fit properly over the backing of the frame. I attached it using some hot glue, just going around all of those outside edges and then pressing it down nice and firm to make sure it was flat. Then we can set that to the side for a moment. I'm going to use one of these DIY decor bundles from Dollar General for $1. I think you can also find these at Family Dollar. Now, I did not use all of the pieces that came in this. I'm going to start off with the base itself, and I'm using a sharp utility knife. And just be very, very careful not to cut yourself. I'm going through that first groove, and I'm going to score that probably about 20 times, and then I'm able to break that off. And then I do have to cut just a little bit more off, doing the same thing, because I want this to be able to fit down inside the bottom of the coin bank. So it does take a little bit of effort, but you are able to cut that with a utility knife. Just be really careful. So you want to make sure that you are clearing where the backing snaps on. So that's why we had to cut that little bit of extra off. I'm using some Waverly White chalk paint, and I'm going to give each one of these pieces one coat of that paint, and I also painted the outside edges and the back. For the snowman and the candy canes, I'm using Waverly's chalk paint in the color crimson, and I'm going to paint that beautiful red cardinal that the snowman is holding. And again, I do like to get those edges, the outside parts, just because you will be able to see those once we put all of this together. Then I can paint the bow as well as the stripes on the candy canes. And for the snowman, I'm using a fine-tip Sharpie marker to outline the eyes and the mouth. And for the nose, I used acrylic apple barrel paint in the color pumpkin orange. And then I took an oil-based Sharpie, which is a bit thicker than the fine tip, and went around the outline of the hat as well as the buttons and also those outside edges. Then I painted the scarf using the crimson chalk paint. And once that paint dries, I took that fine tip Sharpie and created the outline on the cardinal as well as all of the outlines on the snowman. Now you could still see faintly the indentions that they originally had on there, so you can go by that to create your outline. I decided to add some snowflake stickers. These came from Hobby Lobby to the background of our light box, and I'm just going to add a few here and there, whichever I think looks nice, and I do end up adding more than you see here, and you'll see that when we get it all put together. The place where you put the coins for the bank is actually going to be on the bottom of our light box, and I'm taking some battery operated copper LED lights from Dollar Tree. I fed that through that slot where the coins go, pull that all the way through, and then I'm going to start off by putting the tiniest amount of glue in each corner to hold that wire down. So you just put a little bit of glue and then hold it there until the glue sets up, and I'm pulling it fairly tightly so that it will stay behind the frame that you see in the front. There are enough lights to go around the inside of the box twice, and I'll end up right where I started at the very bottom of this coin box. And you do want to make sure that you keep those lines out of the way so that when you put everything in there, they're not hindering the bottom piece from going in. I did use my hairdryer to remove any of those excess glue strands. Then I'm going to add the trees and the snowman and the candy cane onto the base, and I don't even need to glue these down because it is a pretty tight fit. I did make sure that it's going to fit properly in there, like I said, with those lights, before I take some hot glue and glue that down. So you do want to make sure that you glue the base because you don't want it to flop around once you put everything together. And once that glue sets up, I can put the backing back on, and this project turned out so adorable. Not only is it so pretty during the day, but it is also so pretty at night, all lit up. It gives me all the Christmas and winter vibes. I love how project number 1 turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. Let me know in the comments down below. On to project number 2. Starting off with one of these wood circles from Walmart. They measure 3 1/4 inch, and you get about 4 or 5 in a pack for a few dollars. I'm going to paint the entire piece on both sides as well as the outside edges with some Waverly White chalk paint. And I'm using one of Dollar Tree's candle holders. Now, if the sticker's stuck on there pretty good, I like to use my hairdryer to kind of heat that up to remove it and then take some rubbing alcohol to get the rest of that glue off. I'm using one of these smaller bottle trees from this 2-pack at Dollar Tree. Now, it's a little too tall, so I'm going to cut it down a little bit and then remove the excess from the base, and then I can reattach the tree back to the base using some hot glue. I'm going to sit that on top of the wood circle, and I'm also using this snowman with lantern figurine from Walmart for $1.98. Once I have those placed where I want them, I'm going to take some hot glue and glue each one of those to the wood base. And then I'm going to take some Mod Podge and go around the top part of the wood piece up around the snowman as well as the base of the tree, but be really careful not to get the outside edging because that's where we're going to attach the glass candle holder. I'm going to take some faux snow from Dollar Tree, sprinkle that all over the base where the Mod Podge is, and wipe that outside ring off so that we don't have any snow there. I'll take the excess snow and put it into the glass container, as well as add a little bit more, because when we get ready to put these two together, you will lose just a little bit of it. Now, I didn't have any E6000 on hand, so I decided to use some Gorilla Glue that my husband had, and it worked perfectly, and also there's no smell like E6000 has, so I'll probably start using this every time. Just place the two together and allow your glue to dry. And then I'm going to take some wax paper and drape it over top of the glass container. And I didn't have any rubber bands, so I'm going to use a hair tie to hold the wax paper in place and just pull the rubber band or hair tie about middle way down, trying to get the wax paper as tight as possible. Also using one of these tin metal containers from Dollar Tree, I only need the lid portion, and I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue to place that and hold it in the center at the top of the wax paper. And then I'm going to start filling it in with hot glue. So I'm going to fill that tin up almost to the rim and then hold it to the side and let some of that drip over so that it creates runs and drips. And then I'll go on the outside of the wax paper up against the base of the tin and start filling that in all the way to the outside edge and put enough so that it drips or runs down the edge of the wax paper. And I'll continue to do that all the way around the top part of this glass container. Now, every once in a while, I do hold it over to the side so that some of it can run down, and also pull the wax paper tight because it'll start loosening up a little bit. So you'll hold that tight and then add a little bit more and let it just run to however long you want your drips on the sides to be. Now, I originally was going to put a votive candle nestled down in that tin, but as I'm tilting it, it's very uneven, so I decided to go ahead and fill that tin in with some hot glue to give it a nice level surface. Now, I let my glue set up for about 2 hours, let it really cool off before I remove the wax paper from the glass container, and it slides off very easily, and then you can remove the wax paper from the inside. Now, the wax paper did stay on the bottom part of this that was actually sitting on top of the glass, and that's okay because we're going to be painting that, but I did make sure that I got all the excess paper out from around all of the curves of the drips, and so that's nice and clean. Using some white chalk paint, I'm going to start off by painting the bottom side because you will be able to see that once you get it on your glass container. And once that dries, I'm going to paint the top side. Now, I did put 2 coats on the top side and made sure that they were nice and smooth so it'll look like a beautiful melted snow. It also resembles candle wax dripping, but it's really beautiful and I love all of the texture that it has in there. Now, to protect that chalk paint, I'm going to use some Mod Podge. I just want to make sure that it doesn't chip off of the hot glue because I've never really tried this trick before. So I just wanted to protect that, make sure that it stays just like it is. And once your Mod Podge dries, you can then just set it on top of your glass container, or you could glue it, but mine had a pretty snug fit, so I didn't have to glue it down. I'm going to set this on a candle holder that I already had from Target, and then place a battery-operated votive right on top, and now you have an absolutely beautiful snow globe candle out. It is so pretty, and I hope you guys like it too. If this is your first time visiting my channel and you are enjoying today's projects, I would love for you to click that subscribe button and the notification bell below so that you'll be reminded the next time I upload a brand new video. And also visit me on all my other social media accounts. All of the links are in my description box below. Project number 3, I found these battery-operated candlestick lights at Dollar General for $3 for a pack of 3. Remove the stickers from the sides of it because we are going to paint it, and then remove the light bulbs only. So leave everything else intact. We're going to take some hot glue and make it look like a beautiful dripping candle. So you want to leave your base on there and the top on there so you know where to stop and where to start, so you don't put any glue up at that gold piece at the top that's going to twist off, or the base at the bottom. And I did that all the way around the candle, making different lengths of the wax, and it looks very realistic and pretty, and did that for all 3 of the candles. Now I can remove the base from the bottom of each one of these, and I wanted the center one to sit higher than the other 2, so I'm going to use this tin storage container from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use the base of it. So in our previous project we used a lid, and this one we're just going to use the base, and I'm going to hot glue one of those holders right to the center of that. And then I'm going to paint each one of these in a chalkboard black craft paint. I like to purchase this at Dollar General. It gives really good coverage and it lasts a really long time. You want to paint the top inside rim just a little bit because you can see that, as well as all 3 of those bases. Now we can take the top gold piece out of the candlestick itself, and then we're going to paint each candlestick. Now you want to be careful not to go too far up at the top. You want to go right to the very edge, because at the top of those, that is where the batteries go in. And then I'm going to paint each one of those gold pieces. Now you may be wondering why I didn't leave that on there. You have to be able to remove these gold pieces each time you change the batteries, and I didn't want that chalk paint to keep it from being able to open and close. So once all the paint dries, I can then insert my batteries and then insert the bulb into those pieces and put everything back together. And with these particular battery operated lights, you just twist the light bulb just a hair and it'll turn off, and then you twist it back to the right, it'll turn on. And what I love about this is you could paint your bases whatever color you like, or your candles whatever color you like, but I think they turned out really pretty. I'm going to style these on one of Dollar Tree's silver oval trays. And I'm going to put, of course, the taller one in the center. And then I'm going to use some beautiful decorative scatter that I found at Walmart for $2.98. It has tiny little pine cones and greenery and these white balls. And I'm just going to fill that in until I get it to my desired look. And I think this one turned out really beautiful. And you could keep this up all winter long, not just for Christmas. I really love how this project turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. Let me know in the comments down below. And for our final project in today's video, we're going to start off by using 2 of the 5.5-inch square signs from Dollar Tree, as well as one of the smaller signs that holds the succulent. I'm going to remove that succulent and then use a pair of pliers to remove the staple that was holding it in there. And then I'll remove the hangers from the back of both of those signs. Use my hairdryer to again heat up the glue and remove the stickers from all of these 3 signs. Then I'm going to take some spackling and go around the outside edges of one of the signs to give it a nice smooth finish and to fill in those cracks. Then I'm going to clean up my mess with this mini desk vacuum cleaner. I love this thing. It's so handy, and I have that listed in my Amazon store below if you are interested in that. I also removed the leaves from the front of both of those signs, and I tried to remove most of that paper and it just wouldn't come off. So I cut 2 pieces of poster board down so that I can use a glue stick and attach these to have a nice smooth surface on the inside of both of these signs. And you really want to make sure that you press those corners and those sides down to get it adhere very, very well. Again, I did that for both of the signs and then let that glue set up. And then once the spackling was dry on the back of one of the signs, I'm going to take some sandpaper and sand that down and nice and smooth. I am also going to be using 4 of these 3/8 of an inch wooden dowels from Walmart. And I'm going to cut them down to 8.5 inch lengths, so you will need 4 of those. And I'm using my handheld miter shears. Again, this is another lifesaver that I purchased from Amazon, and I have that linked in my Amazon store as well. Each end that I cut, I made sure that I went over it with some sandpaper to get it nice and flat. And then I'm using 2 barbecue skewers from Dollar Tree and cutting those down to 8.5 inches as well. Now I'm going to set all of that to the side and go back to my signs. So I'm going to paint each one of these in Waverly White chalk paint. And I'm going to give this 2 coats. So I am painting the inside and those outside edges as well as all 4 dowels. And on the back side, the side that we put the spackling on, you do not need to paint the entire back of it. You will just need to paint the outside edges, but I did paint the entire back of the other one, and these did take 2 coats of paint. So I just left a square in the middle because that's where we're going to be applying our other sign with the succulent in it. But before we apply that, I'm going to take one of these brain teaser games from Dollar Tree that has the holes on the opposite ends, as well as a Dollar Tree bookmark. And because the hole in this brain teaser game is large enough, I was able to slide each end on each side of this game piece and then pop that bookmark together without gluing it. You could add a little bit of glue, but because I was able to close it, you can still move the bookmark back and forth. I centered that up on the bottom of this sign using some hot glue. And then I'm going to take some black chalkboard craft paint, and I'm going to paint this entire piece except for the bottom because you won't see that. But I also painted the bookmark. This did take 1.5 coats. I just had to go back and touch up a few spots. Now I'm going to attach it to the piece that we put the spackling on right in the center, and I'm going to secure that down with some hot glue. This is going to become the top part of our lantern. So once I have that set up and centered and the glue has set, we're going to take the other sign and flip it over. That's going to be the bottom and this will be the top. And we're going to attach the 2 together with those 4 dowels that we've already painted. I'm going to take my Gorilla Glue and add it in each corner on the inside of the bottom of the lantern. And then I'm going to take some hot glue and run that down the side of the dowel and then hold that in place and keep it as straight as possible. I'm going to push that into the corner, let that hot glue set up, and I'll do that for each of these dowels until I have one in all 4 corners. Then I'm going to take the Gorilla Glue and place that on top of each one of the dowels, and then I will take my hot glue and on the top part of the lantern, I'm going to run that up each of the seams in the corner so that when we get ready to place this on, that hot glue is going to hold that in place until the Gorilla Glue sets up. So I'm just going to place that on there, and as I get my top on there, I'm going to push each of those dowels to the corners where the hot glue is and let that set so they're nice and straight. And this is how your lantern should be looking. Now I'm going to take one of these ornaments. This is a beautiful wood ornament that I found at Dollar General for $1. And I'm going to remove the tag as well as this chenille type stem that they have glued around it. And then I'm going to pick all of that hot glue that they had it holding that chenille stem on. And then I'm going to sand that down nice and smooth. And once I have everything sanded, I'm also going to cut the hanger at the top using my miter shears just to remove that and get it as close to the edging as possible, and then sand that down nice and smooth. I'm also going to be using 2 of Dollar Tree's trees. They're like plastic trees with a ton of glitter on them. I'm going to remove the hangers, and also this is when you're going to be using your barbecue skewers. So these trees have a flat, semi-flat side, and then the other side kind of extends more. We're going to be attaching these barbecue skewers to the flat side. On the lantern on the side where the bookmark is not the circle, it's on the side, I am going to hold the barbecue skewer up in the center of that and use a pencil and mark the bottom because I want the trunk of the tree to sit right there at the edge of the lantern. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So now I know where my trunk needs to be. I can attach the ornament to the barbecue skewer. So I'm going to run some hot glue all the way down the back of this tree on the flat side, and then I can attach that to the barbecue skewer, let that glue cool down a little bit, and then I'll flip it over and run some more glue on each side of the barbecue skewer. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for the other tree and the other barbecue skewer. So we're going to have a tree on each side of our lantern. Make sure you remove all your glue strands before you paint. And I'm going to paint each of these in that black chalkboard craft paint, and I'm painting both sides. Make sure you get all those nooks and crannies on all of those branches. And I'm also going to paint that round wood ornament all the way around, front and back, all the nooks and crannies, and the inside rim of the round part of the ornament. Now I can attach my trees to the side. So again, I'm making sure my bookmark at the top is on the side, and I've already found the center at the top and the bottom and made a mark with my pencil so I would know exactly where to place my glue so that I can glue these down. So you are gluing with the barbecue skewer on the inside of the lantern and just the tree on the outside. Once that glue sets, I'm going to run some glue on each side of the barbecue skewer at the top and the bottom and let it set up. Then I'm going to flip it over, and I've already made my mark for my centers for the other side so that I can glue the other tree down, again with the barbecue skewer facing the inside of the lantern. Now, one of my barbecue skewers was bowed, and it did not want to stay down, so I ended up using my staple gun and adding one staple at the top so that I could hold that in place. Now, if yours are straight, you probably, shouldn't have any problem, but because mine was bowed, I did have to add a staple in there. Now, for the front part of the lantern, this is where we're going to add our round ornament, and I found the center of each of the dowels so that I could line my ornament up. It's going to sit a little bit on top of the dowel, but it's not enough to hold it or glue it just on its own. So I used some Dollar Tree clamps to hold that in place, flip it over, and I'm going to use 6 tiny little wood beads as well as some tweezers because you don't want to burn your fingers. I'm going to place some hot glue on the inside rounded portion of the ornament right up against the dowel and place 3 beads on each side, pushing it against the ornament and up to the dowel, and it's going to give it a better hold and hold our ornament right on the front of our lantern. This is how it should look. I'll have 3 of those beads, and I did make sure that I kind of kept the holes of the beads with the same way. So it really looks almost like a little hinge. And then I'll do the other side the exact same way by gluing those 3 beads down. And it's just going to give us a stronger hold for that ornament. Once those are in place and that glue has cooled down, I'm going to take that black chalkboard craft paint and go over each of these beads to blend them in, and just be real careful not to get it on your white dowel. So this is how it is looking, and it is gorgeous, just the way it is. Now, I did leave the back open so that I can place a battery-operated LED candle in there. So that will stay open. I'm not going to put anything on the back. And again, it's super gorgeous, just the way it is, but I wanted to make a bow to go on the front of mine. I'm using some buffalo check ribbon. I buy this off of Amazon in the 50-yard roll, and I do have that linked in my Amazon store below. I'm just going to make a simple bow by creating 2 loops and then twisting 1 loop around and then tying it together. So you guys, I am not the best at making simple bows. This is the first time I was ever able to make just a simple bow with a piece of ribbon, and I was so excited. Now, it looks like a hot mess right now, but once you pull those loops out, you can kind of straighten it up. And I don't know why my brain just would not allow me to make just a simple bow, but I finally figured it out, and I'm so excited about it. So once I had that created, I'm going to hold it up to the top of my lantern to see how long I want my tails to be. And then I'm going to dovetail each end of the bow. And I'm going to put the tiniest bit of glue on the back part of the bow, just in case I change my mind and I want to take it off the lantern, I don't damage it. So I'm just going to put a little bit on there, hold it in place, and this lantern is finished. And I absolutely love how it turned out. It is one of my favorite Dollar Tree DIYs so far. If you have a favorite out of today's video, please let me know in the comments down below. I always love to know which one is your favorite. And if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, share with your friends and family, and if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch my video. I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. Please take care, and I'll see you guys next time.